think it's time to start our regular session. Summer, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Patterson?
Here.
Commissioner Norwood?
Here.
Commissioner Baker?
Here.
Commissioner Roberts?
Here.
Commissioner Stallings?
Here.
Commissioner Orr?
Here.
And Mayor Mason.
Here.
All present.
Tonight, our invocation and our flag salute. Our invocation will be by Corey Conradi, and our flag salute will be by our Assistant City Manager, Scott Morse. So if you'd stand, please, remain standing.
Me first. Thank you, City Commissioners, and Ministerial Alliance is happy to provide, prayers and pastors for this service and the school board. Again, my name's Corey from Revival Life Church, and I'm ecstatic to be here, and I'm glad. I love to city government, watch it online and all that stuff I was watching today. As we come together today, I just want to say, as we come together for this meeting, let us as citizens and leaders of Enid take a moment to reflect on the purpose of this gathering. As we're here to work towards the betterment of our community, guided by the commitment to justice, equality, and service. May the Lord be with us as we approach our discussions with open minds and hearts, valuing diverse perspectives and seeking the common good in all our deliberations. Lord, grant these individuals the wisdom to navigate complex issues, the courage to make thoughtful decisions, and the compassion to address the needs of every individual of our city. Lord, let their decisions reflect the dedication to improving the lives of all citizens and building a stronger, more united community. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to serve this community. In your Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thank you.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3.1, consider approval of minutes of the regular commission meeting of January the 7th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes 7-0. Item 4.1, present pet available for adoption at the city's Animal Welfare Department.
This is a great dog.
So tonight I have Bowie. Bowie is a very energetic little boy. He's about 1 to 1.5 years old. He's a cattle dog mix. He would do great with an active family who will take him on daily runs and adventures to feed his curiosity. He's very smart and treat motivated, so training would be easy, which obviously he does need training. He's a sweet guy, very, very playful, lots of energy, loads of energy. He rides well in the vehicle. He'll load up right by himself. He's already fully vetted, and he's just ready for his new home. He is located in Pen 18 out of Animal Welfare.
All right.
Good boy.
Thank you. That's an active dog.
Oh, my God. 220.
Item 4.2, recognize the City of Enid Employee of the Month for January 2025.
Yeah, I'm looking around the room. I do not see Jesse. I don't think Jesse was able to make it tonight. Jesse Carpenter, he's an outstanding employee, obviously, because I would say we don't have a whole lot of duds, but we definitely don't give Employee of the Month to duds. And so Jesse is not a dud. I will go out and see him at some point in the near future and tell him how much we appreciate him. He's in the solid waste department. I can't recall how long he's been with the city, but it's been a while. And we're blessed by folks like that. We have about 500 employees. And so Jesse was one of several that were nominated for this monthly award. And it's quite the honor, and it's quite, for me, it's the privilege and one of the most enjoyable things I get to do, which is talk about our employees who do a wonderful job. So, Jesse, if you're out there watching, I will become looking for you.
In a good way.
Yes.
All right. Item 4.3, recognize David Hunter, Director of Public Utilities. David?
David, come on up, please. You know, many of you know that David is a staple at these meetings. He's been our Director of Public Utilities for about 4 years now. He came to us from Denton in the massive DFW Metroplex there. And he has been a fantastic director for us, a fantastic employee for us. And we will miss David. David is actually leaving us. Certainly, I think there's some situations that are taking him back to Texas. But we have had the benefit of knowing him, growing and learning from him. And you're fantastic, and I want to tell you that. I'm going to give you this coin.
Thank you.
Because you could have earned Employee of the Month a lot of times. But you are an MVP. And so if Louisville ever messes up, we would take you back in a moment. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
We appreciate you, and do you want to say a few words? You've been invaluable to us.
Well, I just want to thank Gerald, Scott, and everybody that I've got to work with. It's been actually an honor and a blessing to work with all the people that I've been with. And some of my employees said I've done great things, but honestly, I don't think I've done anything. I've let them do what they wanted to do or what they were able to do. I gave them respect. I gave them opportunities. We had some failures, but I think at the end of the day, I feel like we made it better. The place is better and the people are better. And I think we're all one team. So I'm just glad for the opportunity. You helped me be on Leadership Greater Enid. You nominated me for that, and I got to meet a lot of great people and just exposure to the community. And not just a lot of people I work with, but a lot of just friends. So that's one thing that I definitely will miss, just some of the people that I've come to know over the last 4 years. But thank you for everything.
Well, thank you. I still got to say a little bit more. David's a humble man, and I appreciate that. In fact, I know I hope you like this. One of your nicknames, at least with me, is the Professor, because you are always so knowledgeable, so factual, yet you're able to take any emotion or passion out of it, kind of like when I had the passion about the $45,000 of whatever it was, stuff that I can't even see. Well, David would have more clinically just explained that, and you know, he's fantastic, and you know, I could probably tell a couple of stories, but do you want to tell your story about when you were, was it Carl Lewis, Ben Johnson, or who was it? You got to tell that story.
Oh,
tell that to everybody.
Michael Johnson?
Michael Johnson, the fastest man in the world, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and you were the second fastest man, right?
No. Well, I guess it's funny. I ran track in college. I was a long jumper and a sprinter. And actually, it's funny because Commissioner Orr and I probably crossed paths in Oklahoma City at the Invitational at one point and just didn't know each other. But I've been lucky. I got to jump against Carl Lewis at a meet. I made second to him, but I always say I made second, and it was only 3 people jumping, and he was 5 feet ahead of me. So I can still say I made second to him. But I always tell the story. It was here in Oklahoma City. I was before Michael Johnson was Michael Johnson, as we know. He was just Michael Johnson at Baylor, and he was there running. And a friend of mine who I ran in high school with was on the Baylor 4x4. So Michael Johnson and I and our team were just kind of hanging out. And I looked forward at him, and I said, "Hey," I'm kind of outgoing, and I looked forward at him, and I said, "What's your name?" And he looked back at me and said, "I'm Michael Johnson." I said, "Okay." I said, What do you do?" And he said, "Oh, I run the 2, the 4, and the mile relay." I said, "Okay." And I told him I'm a jumper, and I run sprints, but I don't run sprints very well. And then I still remember I asked the terrible question of the century. I said, "So are you any good?" And to his, I guess, humility or something, he just looked back at me and said, he shrugged his shoulders and he looked back at me and said, "I'm okay." And that day, he went out and ran the fastest time in the world and made all of us look like we were running backwards, 20.89, if I remember correctly, at the Invitational. So, I mean, I've had lots of stories, lots of luck. like I say, I'm very blessed in my life overall. And I guess the adventures continues. I'm going to be closer to my kids, so that's the main thing. And my time with them is incredibly short. My 8-year-old is probably going to be asking for keys in about a week or two. So I need to make sure I'm there to make sure she doesn't get the keys. But thank y'all very much.
One last thing I want to say. David it serves our nation, too. So I want you to know that he doesn't just serve the city of Enid, and he's served for a long time in the Naval Reserve. So I know you are a key cog in the Naval Reserve, and I know you do some meteorology stuff, but you could probably tell us about nuclear stuff, too, and all kinds of stuff.
I can't tell you about that.
So he is a patriot, and we will definitely miss you. But we have your phone number, so I know
Yes.
that you'll answer our call.
Yep.
And boy, we'll just miss you. So,
And if anybody's in the Metroplex around Louisville, Texas, feel free to look me up.
well, I want to thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, David. We do appreciate it, and you've definitely been an asset to the city of Enid. Just the reports that you prepared in your presentations are much more in detail than what I would ever expect. So thank you so much, and thank you for what you've done. And I'm with Gerald. If you ever want to come back, come on back. But I understand everybody wants to be close to their kids, so
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
you bet. All right, and good luck to you. Okay, item 4.4, discussion of any item remaining on, from the study session agenda of January 23, 25. So Aaron, I'll go back to you for the call water finance update.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Last time I was here giving an update on Call Lake, that was through August. So these numbers are going to include the activity from the last 4 months of the 2024 calendar year. And overall, 1% sales tax started in FY17, and here's where we've tracked. We've been conservative in how we budgeted that and have exceeded our budget each year. From July to December, the current fiscal year that we're in, we budgeted to collect just over $5 million, and we collected over that period $6.3 million. It's a $1 million increase, or 20.5227% over last year, and $1.3 million over where we budgeted. There's a factor that's playing into that I just want to talk about. In December, we had a large manufacturing plant who did not timely file for their exemption with the state of Oklahoma. The state of Oklahoma does not retroactively apply that, and so we were gifted a one-time use tax fee by that manufacturing company. That is why it's causing that skew of 20% increase. If I were to remove that from these Call Lake numbers, we would be at a $251,000 increase over last year for the first 6 months, and we would be over our budget by $482,000, or 9.6% for the year. So just want to point that out so you know what's causing that.
Aaron, I want to just jump into, because this slide, while it's just the 1%, it's a good representation. You know, it'll lead into the question, to better answering your question and some other questions that might come up tonight about how can we afford stuff. Well, if you look at that, the amber yellow is the actual, and the blue is the budgeted. And you can look at how much it is, but the main thing that I note is, I think in every single column there, going back about 8 years or so, the amber is higher than the blue. That isn't, I'm going to say that's not an accident. I believe that's good budgeting practices, a conservative approach, because we have to match expenditures with revenues. Being conservative on revenues helps us, you could say, not overspend or not be in a position where we have to do the opposite and be cutting the budget before the end of the budget year. And so I think that's, this is a great chart that shows that. So probably, so we don't have to pull this up again, I may reference this later when we talk about, well, how do we pay for this? Well, one way is through good management over the years. And so there you can see the approach. And I will just probably end it with, hey, that's not an accident. I'm pretty confident if we go look at other cities, now some cities will be wonderful, but some cities won't. It doesn't take very much for you to read the Oklahoman or read those press clippings, and you will see other cities, even large cities. Small cities have it tough because they don't have very many people. We are blessed, right, with 500 employees, so we have the ability to have good internal control, segregation duties, that kind of stuff. But I just wanted to point that out because, Aaron, you make this look really easy, but it isn't all that easy in the end. So thank you.
I always want to put us in a position where we are able to come back and fund additional things that we need that come up throughout the year. They're always coming up. I don't want to come back and meet with every department head and cut their budget and have to ask you to do a budget reduction. And so we're very intentional in how we approach the budget. When we look at what we have collected over that period cumulatively, we have collected sales tax of $74.6 million in total. We've also earned an additional $1.25 million in interest on those sales tax funds, bringing us to $75.9 million. Of that, we have paid out $60.4 million in loan payments over that time, and you can see the breakdown. There are 5 loans that we have through OWRB and how much has gone to each one of those loans. In the green up there, you see there's a $15.48 million section that is available sales tax revenue that's sitting in segregated account of sales tax that's going to be available for future payments. Currently, that $15.48 million is invested. $12.5 million of that in T-bills that are laddered out to meet our future loan payment maturities. So here is kind of a cumulative summary of the loan balances, and this doesn't even start at the very beginning, but it started getting way too small to go back much further. So this is where we're at. As of the last update, we had $40.6 million remaining in loan funds to draw, which was 11.9% of the funds available that we borrowed. As of the end of December, we're sitting at $31.7 million remaining in funds to draw down, or 9.28%, and that's broken up between 2 loans. We have $26.1 million in the 2019 FAP loan, and then the remaining 5.5 is retainage that's associated with the 2020 SRF fund, which is a $205 million loan that will not be released until the project has been completed later this year, hopefully. This is where, broken out by fund, what the payments have been over time. There's $334 million total in loan principal that was taken out. We've paid back $24 million in principal and have $309.8 million. We've paid back a total of 7% of the loan so far to date. The latest loan will pay off in March of 2053. So have a ways to go, but here's where we're at as far as the status of each of those loans to date. Our next loan payments that are due is March 15th, and they will be for $7.4 million cumulatively. And for the 3 FAP notes that are up there, they are interest-only payments in March. For the SRF loans, the other 2 is both principal and interest in March. So you see a little bit lower payments coming out in March, and in September, all of them are principal and interest, so it's a little higher payment that comes out in September each year. There's 2 other sources of money coming into this program. One is congressional funding. This has been a challenge. We've been working tirelessly with our federal HUD assignee, and luckily, last week we were notified that the federal government is no longer going to be the main point of contact for administering these funds for us. They're pushing it down to the state level. And so the same office that we work on for our CDBG program will be the office who is administering this fund. So we already have a relationship with this office. We'll, as soon as they get the transition of power and all of the documents down to the state level, we'll get rolling and be able to access these funds so that we can draw the $4 million that was appropriated through Congress for this program to be able to draw that down.
And I've got to take this opportunity to say this. I can tell you that hasn't happened in 20 years. It may have happened before that. So that's outstanding. Aaron's folks, Stephen in particular, is cracking the code on that. We're getting closer. We're going to get help on that. But I don't want you to lose the significance. The federal government, Washington DC, and our legislators listened to us, and they took some asks forward, and it got approved. And so that's fantastic. And probably on that note, the next 4 years should be an opportunity for plenty of that, because I bet you a lot of you listen to Fox News. And if you listen to Fox News and saw that Hannity interview with the president, who's been in office for about 3 days, he gushed about Oklahoma. So I'm going to try to send you that link, because I'm thinking gushing about Oklahoma is a golden opportunity to get help. So I just wanted to say that. Haven't had that in at least 20 years. So that's a concerted effort of your city folks and governing body and Mike Cooper and everybody else involved working with the congressional delegation, notably Senator Inhofe and Congressman Lucas. So, thank you.
Okay. The other funding source that we did commit to this program is the American Rescue Plan Act. These are dollars that were given directly to us by the federal government during the COVID period, that very limited restrictions on what those dollars should be spent on. There was $11.8 million that we received, and this body did commit $9.98 million of that to the CAW program, with the remainder going to the Ames water line. We did, during December, fully recognize all of that unearned revenue that we had sitting on the books. We were able to draw that down. $9.84 million of it went to the September and October Garney pay applications that we received and have been paid out. And then we also recognized $134,590 to close that out towards professional services that were provided by Envirotech associated with the program as well. And then here is where we're sitting overall on the budget. Whenever I last updated in August, we were sitting at outstanding encumbrances of $39.8 million. That here has dropped to $18.9 million. We've expended or spent down on contracts we already had out there, $20.9 million. We've also spent an additional $356,000 on ancillary things that went along with Call Lake and have been added to the actual expenditure. So our actual expenses went up from $304 million to $325.4 million. Still leaving a remaining $42,000 in unbudgeted funds that are available for the program. Of the $18.9 million that is open on encumbrances right now, 1.7 is to Garver Engineering, and 16.96 is to Garney Construction, with $240,000 remaining to all other parties cumulatively. Are there any questions I can answer for you on finances related to the Call Lake program?
We feel good about that 18.9 million taking us to the end, right? That's what we have left outstanding, is that what I'm?
That is what we have committed at this time to the program.
To the program, okay.
Yep.
And I would just jump into, yes, we did, the commission did an excellent job choosing Garney and Garver. And city staff, Morale, fantastic job managing that. We are going to finish the contract with Garney for $256.8 million. We're going to get a 70-mile pipeline that can treat 10.5 million gallons a day and provide for the future of this community for 50 to 100 years and for future development. While we continue to invest in our well fields, this project would be unaffordable today. It would be unaffordable. We started before the inflation spikes. We started before interest rates have gone through the roof. And so I think when we're done in September or sometime, we are going to have a big party, right? And we're going to tell the story about how the city of Enid did this. And when folks want to know, well, what have you done? What have you done? What can you do for us? Well, we've just spent $342 million that we're going to be paying back for a while. But we're going to keep doing that. So it's a great news story. You know, congratulations. We have other needs, but this one's going to be met. So I thought I would tell you that. We have been through about 7 change orders. About 3 of them or so were monetary, and those were painful. But to finish for $256.8 million on construction costs for something that started out, I think the GMP was 242 or something like that. I don't know what that percentage is, because I'm not going to try to calculate it now. Scott would do it for me. But it's pretty small, and it's pretty phenomenal. And again, that's not an accident. That's concerted efforts. We started this project at least in 2015, and probably before that with water studies. In 2015, the commission in place at that time authorized the expenditure of $1 million with Garver to do a study to determine the feasibility of going to Caw Lake, because it had been talked about in the past and talked about in the past. And of course, you know, enough money and time, right? Morale engineers are going to tell you anything's possible. So, except they're going to tell us you need more than $1 million to do it, but you can do it. And so this community came together and passed a sales tax at about 68% or 69%. And in this community, not too many things pass at 68 or 69%. So I would say, in the words of our president, that was a landslide. And it was all for do this project, and so we've done it. But we had numerous challenges. We went across sovereign nations. We had some things that we had gambled on in our effort to get that GMP down to 240 million. And I can say we didn't quite get there. But to finish for 256, this project, we'll win awards later, Morale. So when we're done, we're going to put in all the time to put in for awards, and we will win awards on this. So I'm going to stop talking, but this meeting tonight, there's so much good news, I cannot contain myself, so.
So, those are good points, Gerald. I happened to be at an event several months ago, talking to a mayor from another community. They're wanting and needing to put in a water line, not as lengthy as ours, not the capacity of ours, and they've done some preliminary studies. 600 million is where they're at. So when I say we hit a home run on this thing, I don't think we will fully understand that. I just don't think we understand. If we would have just waited 2 years, it wouldn't have been feasible. We would have been stuck with the amount of water that we have right now. The last thing I wanted to say was, and I didn't get to a while ago, is Aaron, good job on that audit. Every time I'm up here, which it seems like it's a lot, but you and your team were sitting in those breakout rooms working with those auditors. I don't know how many hours that was, but it was a lot. And I asked Joel over there, I said, man, we're good. And he goes, David, you've got the best team ever right here. So I appreciated that, but I appreciate what you do and what your entire team does. I know that's a lot of folks that work on that, not just you, but it's under your direction. So thank you so much. I think we can overcome a lot of issues that communities have as long as we don't get behind the 8 ball on money, right? We can overcome almost anything. So I think we're in good shape, and that's because of you, because of our city manager. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm going to 5.1, I'm going to go to 5.1. This is going to take 2 votes. After I read it, we're going to have to take it off the table, right? Bring it back to discussion if we want to discuss it. This is on the 2 engineering firms that we had here 2 weeks ago. And I will say I was glad that we tabled that for 2 weeks. That was a lot of information. And I literally had to go back to my office the next day and just look at some of that and rethink it. And so I thought that was a good move. That was actually Commissioner Stallings' ideal, I think, to table that. So I think we did a good deal by taking 2 weeks, but here we are. And so I'm going to read 5.1. Consider taking from the table and taking action on the half and Kinley Horn presentation for the new youth sports complex and select the preferred firm, authorizing staff to negotiate the scope of the work and the corresponding fees and prepare a contract for approval by the mayor and the Board of Commissioners. So I will look for a motion to bring that off the table.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Cast your ballots. Motion passes 7-0. So now I will open it up to comments, discussions. If anybody wants to ask any additional questions.
Mayor, can I, as part of your questions, can I go ahead and talk about the background, how we got to today, just briefly? Would that be helpful?
It would be helpful, thank you.
This is a project, again, it's, I can say, we have big projects that come along from time to time, and it takes vision of the leaders sitting up here, the elected officials, city staff, people that aren't in this room right now, consultants, to figure out how to do all of this. But it's critically important to advance our city, which is a top 10 city, and we want it to be. And that's really your job, is and our job to support you to help do that. This is one of those opportunities that's come along. Many of you have benefited from a lot of the work that was laid for Call Lake, and you're going to get to enjoy what I'm going to call is the glory of getting this thing done, and all the awards, Morali, that City of Enid Engineering is going to win on this, and probably Garver and Garney and all that stuff. I can think of, and there's probably been many other projects. One that comes to mind right now is the Ames Waterline project. You'll remember we've talked about that a little bit. It's a project that's an expensive project, and I'm not going to get into that because it's kind of off the topic. But the point is, they're projects that have to be done. When we start thinking about them, we don't necessarily know how are we going to pay for this, how are we going to do all of this, but we have to move forward. And so I think for us, this project probably is already, I'm going to say, I don't know if it's a year and a half, but it's more than a year that we worked on it. And I think it's a vision, Mayor, and that you've talked with some of the commissioners, and we've done a little bit of preliminary work to get to this point. It's an opportunity. And so I want to talk about that preliminary work that we did. It's been probably a little over a year ago now. We initially engaged a firm out of Tulsa that we had kind of known because they had done our park study back in about 2013. And we needed some help because, among other things, I'm kidding with engineers, although I'm also serious, money and time. But without engineers, you can't get stuff done that's infrastructure. And so as we began to look at that, we had ideas of what we think we need. And Mayor, I hope you remember, there was Commissioner Orr, you were there, and Commissioner Norwood. We had at least a couple of small group meetings with Wallace Design over at the Stride Bank Center. And we talked about what do we think we need. And we had some other people, staff, and I think we maybe had some park board people. And we came up with a list of things, an incomplete list, but it was a start. And then that led to some thoughts about estimating. And Scott, I think forever, you're going to be our estimator.
We'll see
Per the
if I was
newspaper.
even close.
And so, but you got to start somewhere, and I'm excited about that. And then that led to some renderings. And then about a year ago, you talked at the State of the City about, hey, we're going to get this done. And then it seemed like there was quite a lag time, and I would say there probably is. But while that year passed by, it's not that nothing was happening. We're trying to figure out how to do this. And the mayor and some of you are probably thinking we can get this done in a year, but it takes a little longer than that. But we're at the precipice now of you guys making a selection. And I want to say that we stopped after that State of the City, and we wanted to reevaluate. We had to make sure, I thought, with Morali and the team, we need to make sure we go through all the motions, not just going through the motions, but make sure that we get the best firm involved in this, because it's going to make all of our lives better, easier. And so we thought we needed to restart. And so by that I mean we actually sent out a request for qualifications. I don't know exactly when that was. I think, did we have 14 firms respond? I think you guys have the hard decision tonight of choosing between, or selecting one out of the two, but I will tell you that we had a hard job too, but not quite this hard, because I think we brought you the two best ones, but we narrowed it down from 14 to 7, and then to 4 with internal staff iterations. And certainly, we've talked to some of you, and then we ultimately narrowed it down to 2. And now that it's narrowed down to 2, had both firms, and I see at least one of them here tonight, maybe both of them are here. In any event, they came in, made their presentation, and I know over time, the natural question from people that I've heard, and maybe some of the staff has, well, what do you think? What do you think? And so I want to be clear, we think both of them are fantastic. We think both of them are capable. We think both of them have shown that they've done projects that we think are going to cost in the range of $25 million. They've done them in places around Oklahoma and others. They have a good team assembled, and they told you both about their teams. So we want to answer all your questions you might have tonight before you select one, but we're not going to answer the question or be able to answer the question for you, which one, because that's critical. You guys need to make that decision. We brought you the 2 best ones. And I know whichever decision you make, and I know you're probably going to make a decision tonight, right? It's going to be the right one for us. So all that decision will do is give us certainty with who to begin working with to negotiate a contract to bring back to you with elements primarily, what is the scope of services. And then, of course, we'll be talking about fees, and ultimately we bring that item back. I anticipate that would take a little bit of time, not a lot of time, but Morali, I think my expectation would be that we would probably come back in about a month. And so hopefully we could work that out with whichever one it is and work on that scope of services. But we can certainly talk about some other things, and I know, the budget, if now's the time. But I just want to set that background for you to know there's a lot of work. Yes, it's been a year since the mayor talked about it. I bet he's going to talk about it again on February 7th. And but we are now ready to, once we have an agreement with a firm, that's when our 3-year timeline starts, Morali.
Right.
So that'll be a key thing for us with whatever firm it is. We want to be done from start to finish now in 3 years. And we think it'll cost $25 million. Now, they may come back and tell us we're crazy, it'll cost a lot more. But it's going to take some cost control and, quite frankly, some well-defined scope, because we can easily push that cost up by what I've heard called the good idea fairy before. Did any of you know about the good idea fairy? The good idea fairy is the ones that come in, after the fact and say, well, hey, what about this? What about that? What do you want to add that? Typically, that good idea fairy doesn't have a checkbook and doesn't have any money in the bank account. So we're going to have to figure out what is that scope of services. And so tonight, we're not asking you to help us with that. We're just asking you to choose one. But I'm going to stop talking because you probably have some questions. We want to answer them. And then you're going to have the hard part of making a choice, a selection.
Okay. So I will just open it up to the commissioners. If anybody has any questions or concerns, thoughts?
I just want to make sure, if I remember this right, that both companies were going to go out and get community input.
Yes, I anticipate that will be in our scope of services. I think they may have both talked about that, I don't recall, but I know we're going to want that, because we always, at the city, we always think we know what's best. But you know what? We don't always know what's best, and what's best for us is to get buy-in. Because that leads back to the funding question. At the end, what do the citizens want? What are they willing to pay for? And if we can hit that, and so yes, we will look at the expertise of whichever firm it is to help us with that. Scope of services, I don't know how long that will take, but that would probably take several months to figure that out. And then that helps round out what are we doing, and then that starts help rounding out what the cost estimate is. So yes, I gave you the long answer, the short answer is yes.
Well, I'll ask the question everybody's thinking. I think you need to publicly tell us what your thoughts are for coming up with $25 million.
Great. I have given this some thought, because funding issues aren't easy. I know in the end we make them look easy, but we rely on a lot of help, because we do not have $25 million. As good a financial condition we are in, we do not have $25 million to write a check for this facility. So I'll just get to the chase. I will tell you, one of the best programs that we're barely just starting to utilize is that Department of Commerce pooled, what's it called, public-private pooled partnership program. And it's fantastic. We've used it twice. So we're talking about a program we know a little bit about. We used it at the airport, Woodring Airport, to help pay, along with the DSIP grant, for the joint use hangar, but also for the South Ramp hangar, which fixed all that concrete and made it a nice place to park airplanes for one of our most important constituents in the community. And then it also helped fund what ultimately will be 16 new general aviation hangars. Eight are out there right now. And so that's one project. We just recently got approved for a $10 million award to help pay for the Ames Waterline project, which is about a $32 million project. So we're well on the way towards paying for that with $4 million appropriation, probably with some money moved around from ARPA dollars that paid for a different thing instead of CAW, and then ultimately we'll have to put some money in or take out a loan. So, but anyway, back to that. So I think we can get $10 million. That program is a fantastic program. You sign up. You have to find employers that are willing, in this community, that are willing to participate. But it's really ingenious, whoever came up with it. It takes state withholding payroll taxes that employers have to pay anyway. Atwoods has to pay this, Jiffy Trip, the base. All these employers, we have to pay state withholding taxes, which is that income tax again that you heard Kurt Rogo talking about. Well, instead of that just going into what I'm going to call the black hole at the state, where they're going to spend it wherever they want doing something else, with commerce, there's a few rules, but this is one of the best programs for not very many rules either. It's got to have public benefits, it's got to be owned by the public. So I think they call it net, something about net benefit to the public. Anyway, I'm confident that we'll be able to get 10 because really that will come down to an equation of how many employers can we get signed up, which goes back to the buy-in. Well, how bad do we want this? Well, on a program that companies can contribute without really even contributing. Now, I say that you can only utilize economic development programs, and Dr. Max here could talk about it more, but you can only use one program. But if they're not using any other program, then they can sign up for this program, which routes the money back to us over a period of time. I mentioned that $10 million award for Ames. That's with 3 employers. Thank you, Colonel. You were one of them for your federal employees. ASRC and Amentum are the 3 companies we have signed up, and John Choppy and Jeremy, well, I think it's John and OTC. However he figures this out, it's all behind a curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. We don't get to see it, but anyway, he says we'll get $10 million over 3 years. Now, for us, you know, there could be some cash flow implications, but the exciting thing is we got $10 million. So I think we can get $10 million there. We became aware of a National Park Service grant, and Rob, did you tell us about that, or you told Corey or something, or somebody told Corey who told the rest of the team, and now we're busy. Stephen, our #1 money getter, is busy on this National Park Service grant for outdoor recreation. We think this might qualify, and you can ask for awards from $300,000 to $15 million. Well, guess what amount we'll be asking for? Yeah, now, we probably, it's not a guarantee we'll get that, and we may not end up asking for that much because you can only ask for half of the project amount. So let's just say that's $12.5 million plus 10. I can do that math in public. That's $22.5 million. We thought it was a $25 million project. Hey, but we're not done, because Stephen's got another grant for us through Tourism and Rec, I think, up to $1 million. Now, this doesn't mean that we're always going to get these, but we're going to apply, and then everybody that's going to listen, including the people that are kind of obligated to help us, Kurt Rogo, Mike Cooper, our congressional state delegation, and we've, friends in the state agencies that are getting things done, like Commerce, OWRB. So I think if we were able to get something like that, we're talking about $23.5 million. Suddenly, that project becomes achievable, in my opinion. I know Aaron will find $1.5 million if that's what it took of city money. And who knows, maybe we might have to ask the people for something at some point. I would prefer not to ask the people because they have an especially when there's other sources of funding available. Anyway, so quickly, $10 million PPP, probably 12.5 with that grant, but it's dependent on getting a grant. We're going to try in the million, and then I know we can come up with $1.5 million. So right there's $25 million. At some point, when this contract's negotiated with whoever you select, that we're going to pay up front. I'll just say out of height, because we're going to have to phase those engineering fees with an amount that we can afford now, which is really relevant going back to that chart that we talked about earlier when you saw that net unrestricted amount, and Aaron told you about, you know, the gift from somebody. You know, I hate to say somebody else's loss is our gain, but it's the only source of revenue that we have. So we're going to be able to, I feel fairly confident, and if some of those grants don't work out for those amounts, we're not done. I just mentioned to you, I got to send you that clip. President Trump, 3 days in, talking to Hannity, and Hannity won't shut up. Let Trump talk. He started talking about how he loves Oklahoma, all 77 counties. So I think on our Washington trip, I don't know that we're going to get to see the president, but we're going to be seeing.
I've already called him.
Okay. Senator Langford and company, it should be an easier effort to potentially get some money. Now, I'm not, obviously, anyway, that's an idea. It's better than what we had a year ago thinking about it. And I guess that's all I can tell you right now.
I'm not sure you should have said the 25 million with Darren sitting there, because you know he's going to spend every bit of that now. You
Well,
should have said we might come up with 20.
He's going to be constrained if he's chosen, or whoever's chosen is going to be constrained, because whatever the reasonable amount is that this governing body determines is what we're going to be able to shoot for or go for. Then the marching orders from us to whoever this engineer is on budget, on time, has to be, well, at least on budget, has to be real, and on time too, because we waited a long time. And we'll call this a youth sports complex, but we might have to call it something, because I've got a feeling adults like to play too. And Rob, aren't there adults playing at the soccer park now? Aren't they called college students? I think we call them adults. So this is going to be fantastic, and I'm going to stop talking. You want to talk about how much money it's going to bring in?
Well, and I've said that many, many times. I think most of you know that we've done a study. The city has actually paid for a study to look at the amount of sports revenue that comes in. And something I want to mention is the ideal of bringing in sports revenue is not new for Enid. We've been doing this for 25 years. David Allen Memorial Park right over here is 25 years old. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, that it benefits the city of Enid. Every time they come and they stay in our hotel rooms, every time they eat at our restaurants, every time they buy merchandise, every time they purchase gasoline, we are the benefactors of that. I also wanted to mention, Gerald, that, well, before I go on to that, I want to mention that in that study that we did a couple years ago, which I think those numbers would most likely be dated because it was when I was Ward 6 Commissioner, they were showing us, and Rob, you can help me, you helped me with those numbers last year, but for every, I keep wanting to say ball player, but participant, athlete that comes to town to play, 2.7 adults will follow with them. 2.7 on average. And when we set up our tournaments so that they don't lose on the first day, where it's a round robin, they all have to stay the night. And every one of these big tournaments are doing that. I've heard people go, is that really possible to have 100 teams? I couldn't count the number of people that are going out to Colorado right now that are playing in 300 and 400 team tournaments. So I'm not sure if we're not thinking too small, right? But 100 teams. Also on raising the money, first of all, I want to go on the record tonight saying at no time since I mentioned this project have I thought about or intend to raise any taxes or a bond. That would be my absolute last resort to do that, because I don't think we're going to need it. I think we've got a grant writer up there now that does nothing but chase money for us. And it's paying off real well for the city of Enid. I have along with Dr. Mack, have also talked to some other people down at Commerce that think there is some additional money. You know, we had a meeting just last week with some state legislators that are at the head of appropriations, told us that they have some concerns about Enid and Altus, the base, and whether or not there's going to be another BRAC come around. And they want to harden these two bases. What that means is they want to make sure there is no reason they're going to move these bases out. One way we do that is lifestyle, or standard of life, whatever you want to call it. I've got to think y'all have small kids that would love to have a new ball field to play on out there, or football, or whatever, soccer, all those type of things. We sat there in one-hour meeting, and while they don't fund ballparks, they love economic development infrastructure. And when we left there, they had verbally committed, which means nothing, to how much, Marcy? 20 million?
Go big, go big.
I mean, it was roads, redoing the road, I mean, it went on and on and on, that they were excited about. Whenever I have a legislator that's writing the check, looks at me and goes, are y'all not going to need an indoor facility out there? And I go, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, that's nice.
You tell me. So my point is, we're Enid, Oklahoma. We're the 8th largest community in this state. If we aren't bold enough to stand up and say, I've got a vision, I think it's going to be something that's going to bring revenue into our city, and we'll pay for it. We'll pay for it. We've got all kinds of funding mechanisms right here to start working on today. We purposely didn't go out and do that, and we probably shouldn't have started throwing around the number of 25 million that early, because, I mean, that's literally pulled it out of the air. But you cannot know what something's going to cost until an engineer sits down and figures it all out. I don't know if they have to move 1,000 yards of dirt or 100,000 yards of dirt. There's no way to know that until they start doing all the civil engineering on that. I do know that we have not even talked about yet individual contributions. The Allen family, which just said they were giving us that 54 acres at $10,000 an acre, that's over $500,000 right there that they're already in on. So, you know, if you want to complain, bring more than $500,000 to the table then, and we'll let you complain about it. But this is going to be a great opportunity. This builds right into what we're wanting to do on economic development. We've got businesses that are growing, Bryce Steel, PT Coupling, Tachyon, all those places, Airco that's coming in, they're all going to have some place for their kids to go play. And I will tell you right now that Crossland up there, I won't go down the whole list, but I have a photograph on my phone where one of the out-of-town teams slid and fell in raw sewage that was coming up through the ground, because every time we have a tournament out there, it all overflows. Now, that's a hard sell to get them to come back to Enid, and we can do better than that. I just believe in Enid, we don't do anything small. Just look around. We don't do anything on a cheap scale, and we can do this. This is not a big enough step that we can't make. You know, I had worked with an old man one time. He said, David, that's no step for a stepper. So I think you just have to ask yourself, are you a stepper or not? Are you a visionary, or are you a complainer and a naysayer? I'm going to look towards the future is what I'm going to do. And if I can get the consensus of this group, we're going to build this ballpark, because it's going to benefit people for years and years and years. So there you have it. Anybody else want to talk?
I'd like to say, Mayor, that Oklahoma City's doing the same thing. They're getting ready to build a huge sports facility. And besides the economic drive of it and the cost of it, how many of you all have family and individuals at your churches and different organizations that say, hey, there's really not much for the kids to do, the teenagers to do here in Enid? That's the reason why they get in so much trouble, because that need something to do, and then they have to travel, take income from Enid, go to other cities, and endorse them with $400, $500, $600 on the weekend, when we can keep those monies right here. But more than anything, it's safer to where when you have sports infrastructure within your own city, you know, that's a less of a liability, people having to get out on the highway and travel to go and come back home. You know, I think the insurance companies would like that idea. But more than anything else, I feel like as a commissioner, myself, I owe the people an opportunity, especially our youth. I owe them that. You know, I lived in Denver, Colorado. We had it. I would like for the young people of Enid, Oklahoma to be able to have my experience right here in Enid. And to me, when you look at the longevity of it and time, it's just a drop in the bucket, because the revenue that we're going to obtain from it is astronomical. And we can create, you know, the raw meaning of economic development is moving money and causing money to flow and not be stagnant. We've been stagnant in Enid for a long time. And it's time to get out of that mentality and believe that we can accomplish this. I mean, you've heard Gerald expound on how we've done such a great thing on the water project. I trust the engineering department. I trust our finance department. They've proven themselves. Gerald and his management expertise. I know we can do this. And more than anything else, I believe that the citizens in Enid believe that we can do this. You know why? Because they want it. You know what else they want besides this? They want a movie theater more than anything. And our doctors would like to have this so that we can recruit. I mean, we're just missing a few pieces of the puzzle. And if we go ahead and believe in this by faith, it can be done. We can accomplish this, because it's not all about us that sit up here. It's not even about us. We're in this position because the people put us in this position. They trust us to make good decisions. And like you said, Mayor, Enid is number 8 in Oklahoma. You know, and it used to be bigger than that. But more than anything, we need to give something to our youth so that they would be able to stay out of trouble and enjoy life, you know, quality of life. We want to fulfill and finish our trail, our running and walking trail. Guess what? You start bringing in sales tax revenue and create money, we can do that without the pressure. Right now, anything that we do, we're gonna feel the pressure. But I think if we make decisions and do things like this, it can relieve us of those pressures. And my last thing I would like to say as I conclude, if you haven't went, go to Dallas, Texas, and there's a town. Well, it used to be a town, but it's no longer a town anymore. It's a city, Frisco, Texas. I mean, it's unbelievable, the things that they're doing. I mean, there are people everywhere. They have every court for every sport in Frisco, Texas. It's amazing. You know what? We can do the same thing right here in Enid on a smaller scale.
Anybody else? All right. Well, we don't have ballots, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look for a motion to select one of the 2 engineering firms, and then that will go to a vote. And if that's not a majority, will we have to have another vote on that then?
I would
Yeah,
assume.
then we'll have another vote after that. So I will look for a motion.
Well, I would like to make the motion of selecting half as the firm.
A second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, vote yes.
I'm abstaining.
Okay. So we have, that's 4-1.
Commissioner Patterson, are you voting?
Well, oh, do I have to vote? If I'm, yeah, because I was voting the other way.
Okay, 4-2. So
It's actually
that's me, huh?
4-3, but it passes.
4-3, right, okay. So that passes, half will be our engineering firm. All right. Item number 5.2, consider approval of a real estate purchase contract between the sellers, Elijah Lee Underwood, and I'll get this wrong, Laudis Castellon Zavala, and the city of Enid for 20 acres of property located at 6120 West Roop Avenue in the amount of $210,000 plus closing costs, authorized payment at closing, and authorize the mayor and his representative or his representative to be present at the closing and to execute necessary documents.
Can you go ahead and pull up that graphic, Ken? I want to make sure everybody, I want to orient people to the piece of property we're talking about and try to answer questions. I think we have somewhere, we may have to go back to the presentation folder, there should be a graphic.
Let me pull it up on.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, if you'll see, Marley, would you mind, because you can get to that pointer quicker, can you show that parcel, the big box that's right next to the soccer complex is the property the Allen family owns? And the Allen family, I can't say enough about them. I want to say that they have, and some other donors, have predominantly funded the premier soccer complex we have that's just to the east of that, where we have, I believe it's 6 fields and a championship field and an indoor practice facility. It's, from Mark Allen's own words, that's an $18 million facility, and it was deeded to the city. And the city put in that $18 million facility $5 million. So that's another example of how we're able to get things done and how blessed we are to have the philanthropy of the Allens, McLaughlins, and others that have been here over time. But I just don't want to undersell it. The Allens put in a massive amount of money. The McLaughlins put in some significant money too, and others have as well. The city put in $5 million. So that's an $18 million facility. And so as I orient you, if you'll go just, well, I'll tell you what, let's just, that piece of property right there, that is, when the Allen family started this project, probably 5 or 6 years ago, they bought that entire, I think it's 160 acres? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's a quarter.
And so they have that 50 acres or 54, whatever it is. There's a portion cut out there at the bottom. That box is a substation. But that's about 50 or 50 plus acres that the Allen family has reached out to us, and they're interested in some form or fashion, helping the city with this idea of a youth sports complex. So again, we are blessed by the philanthropy of that family. And so that's roughly, I'm going to call it 50 acres. It might be more or less. In our initial work that I talked about that we did with Wallace Design, we did enough work, and I think internally, that we thought to do, to have 12 fields and do 100 team tournaments, we needed something more like 70 acres. And that lines up with other projects that we're aware of, like Edmond's doing. I'm not so sure about Oklahoma City, but Norman's got one, or doing one. So 70 acres. So as we looked at several sites, well, really 2 primarily. But I will say, why are we focused on this? Well, because of the premier soccer facility we have there, the philanthropy of the Allen family, and the ability in that one centralized location to potentially build whatever it is that the community wants to have there. And so we're not concerned about that 50 acres. We know one way or another, through the generosity of the Allen family, the city's going to be the beneficiary of that at some point. However, we don't think that's enough. And so we'll go through some iterations of some things, but those 2 parcels to the west, that 20-acre skinny parcel and the next one over, are a couple of parcels that we've identified And I know, I think Dr. Mackey brought it to our attention that one of them was for sale. The middle one, I will say, Morali, the middle one, that's not the one that's on the agenda tonight. Go back to the right or the east. That one. That one was for sale with a Realtor here in town. It has been delisted because I will say after some initial conversations, we believe they've been unreasonable in the price. So we moved our focus to the next 20-acre parcel. And I realize if we get both those 20-acre parcels plus 50, I can do that math in public too, Scott, right? That's 90. Well, that's probably more than we need, but we're trying to be visionary here. We're trying to be visionary. And so once you get something going, and there is some development going there, you can see those lots have been parceled out in smaller acreages, and you can see there's various homes and things being built. So over time, whether we put anything else there or not, just the soccer complex alone and Walmart at that end of town is going to drive development in that area. So we thought it was very prudent to go out and try to acquire those two 20-acre parcels. And I'm happy to report we've been successful in negotiating what I think is a fair deal with the owners of that parcel. Can you show them? It's that one. That's the one. That's 6120 West Roop. It's owned by Elijah Underwood and his wife, and recently met with them. We actually started out offering something like, I think it was $7,500 or something an acre. We ended up, if you've done the math, it's $10,500 an acre. I get it. Is the land really worth that? Well, it depends on your perspective. I will tell you the Allen family, and it's public record, thought the land was more valuable. They paid more than that. So on that 50-acre parcel that we'll likely get at some point, I want to say they paid something like $16,000 an acre. And I would say the Allen family knows what they're doing. And so I felt really good when we were able to come to that, particularly since the guy in the middle was asking, I don't even know what he went up to. Was it $22,000 an acre or some crazy thing? We're clearly not, we don't think we're probably going to pay that much. But we thought it was prudent to go ahead and get the contract on that 20-acre parcel. It has been parceled out from, I guess, the company that owned it before, Pin Drop. I know, Josh, you've looked at some of that. And as they parceled it out, it has been sold, if you want to call it that, on a contract for deed to these owners. But we also have that contract for deed contract, and they can prepay it. So anyway, we think we have a valid contract. If you approve this tonight, we're going to promptly tomorrow take this over to the closing company and get them busy getting a title opinion. Because if you approve this tonight, you're going to obligate some money, but we're not going to pay out any money until we figure out that they have good title to it. And so that's part of the process. So anyway, why are we doing this? Because I think we need to get those two 20-acre parcels. I think other people think that. Do we have to have them? Maybe not. But if we're going to be visionary and have opportunities for expansion, because I know when we do this, it's going to be such a success that we're going to have to be careful on the scope creep. We're going to have people saying, what about a basketball facility? What about this? What about that? What about pickleball? Love to have it. But our charge is going to be, at least at this point, 3 years, $25 million. Well, if we don't have land, and that 25 is construction, it doesn't include the cost of the land. Thankfully, I hope we've shown you we're in an outstanding financial position. We can buy that land right now. Aaron's going to talk about it if we get that far and talk about the appropriation and stuff. Anyway, it's an opportunity. If I can answer any questions, I'll do my best.
So, Gerald, are we getting ahead of ourselves if we buy that west plot first? And then what happens if that east one doesn't become available?
You know, that's...
Or am I incorrect to assume that the price may go up quite a bit on that? Have we talked to the guy who owns the...
I don't think you mean the one in the middle that's...
Yes, that one right there.
Yeah. It's a really good question. I would say the guy's already probably gone up, and I don't know if it's because he thinks that we're doing all this or not. He understandably, it's not uncommon when the city of Enid goes to buy property that people think it's very, very valuable suddenly. Well, I can't dispute that it's valuable. And why do I think it's a good idea to go ahead and get this other parcel is, one, it's a parcel I think we need at some point. And so if we get it now, I'm pretty confident that $10,500 an acre, when we look back, is, going to be viewed as a good deal. I'm pretty confident, because some of the properties we just bought in the industrial park, I went back and looked at, and I was shocked at what we got it for. It was a heck of a deal. So we also think, secondly, I think anyway, it's going to put pressure on the guy that owns it. And thirdly, I think as we probably work towards acquiring that tract, there may be some other options available to us to acquire it at some point if we're not able to negotiate a fair deal. So can I tell you with certainty we'll be able to get that middle parcel? No. I can tell you with certainty we can get that one parcel that I think we need at some point. So is it a little bit of a risk? Yeah, but I've got confidence, to be quite frankly, I've got confidence in myself and the team that we have here. I know we're going to get that parcel. So now, I can't tell you how long, but I'm confident that we can get it. I also want to talk while we're at this, although it's not directly, I guess, related to that parcel. Raleigh, would you show them the stormwater parcel that we might have some future opportunities? Currently, that parcel below, it's about a 22-acre parcel. We have to use that. It's part of the detention facility. So certainly, we'll be looking at other parcels in the future around that, because if we can repurpose that 22 acres, that can help us. But notwithstanding, I think we should still require those two 20-acre parcels. And then finally, the Allen family owns that. I think is it 13 acres to the east of that right there? That's mostly in a floodplain. But I know, what's the mantra? With enough money and time, engineering can make anything happen.
Right.
So to answer your question, yes, it's a little bit of a gamble, but I think it's a gamble worth taking. Could we resell that property if we decide we're not going to do any of this for $10,500? Well, probably if we hang on to it long enough. But I think we'll end up using it, so.
Other questions?
I do have one, just the parcel right to the north of it, of the big section, the one, yeah. Is that not for sale?
I think there's a possibility that that's for sale. I mean, I don't want to talk about that too much, but because we're kind of looking at that, but we think that's a possibility, yes.
So there are other options?
Less
even
is
on
always
the
better,
sale?
right,
Yeah.
Scott? So yes,
Okay,
anything's for sale for enough money, so it's just,
That's the truth.
so I think it's a great opportunity for you guys, but we really want to make sure we answer your questions because, the city's buying some property. And again, we can afford that property. We think it's visionary. Could we say, no, let's not get it now, let's wait till later? We could. I'm pretty confident if I was that landowner later and I came to him and said, hey, well, okay, now we'll give you $10,500. I'm guessing I would be smart enough to know, oh, no, I think I could get more for it now. So I think now's the time to get it. Even though I know President Trump says he's going to bring inflation down, I bet he does. I only see prices go one way, ultimately, so I don't think that land's going to get any cheaper. And here's the other thing. You see the parcel we're talking about, what other land are we going to get that's going to work? I mean, there is no other land that's adjacent directly to the west of it, so I think it's a great opportunity. I encourage you to buy it.
Keep in mind also, if you take that amount that we're paying for it, and even that we have to pay for the other 20 acres right there, you divide that by 90. You don't divide it by 40 acres on what the total cost is per acre, which is still a hell of a deal. Heck of a deal. We looked at several other places around Enid, and it's hard to put a piece together that big. Very hard. And then to have enough infrastructure. Keep in mind, we brought in, I believe I was told, correct me, Morelli, a 16-inch water line
That's correct.
comes into the property there at, well, you can show them, right there. So there's a lot of reasons to go right there. It's near our hotels, a lot of our hotels, it's near shopping. We think also that it will increase the opportunities for movie theaters when they see all these kids coming in, because if they play at 8 in the morning, they don't play till 8 that night, they've got to have something to go do, right? And by the way, for those of you out there in the viewing audience, we have never stopped working on a movie theater.
Right.
Just so you know, you think that comes and goes. I think we're on our 5th movie chain we're negotiating with right now today. So, and it certainly hadn't been because the city of Enid's backed out on any of those deals. I'll just tell you right up front. So, one of the quotes we had on a property just right up the road right there was $23 million to build that movie theater. At the end of the day, that did not cash flow. So, I think the debt service was $53,000 a month on it. So, am I upset that we didn't buy into that deal? No, I think it's probably one of the smartest deals we ever did was back out. But it wasn't because we didn't have our money ready to go on the incentives. So for all those folks out there that just go, oh, they're never going to build a movie theater, we're trying. There's not a day goes by we don't have that conversation. So this is going to be a good area. Good area. I think it's well worth the money. And there are other ways that we'll end up with that piece of land. That extra strip. So. All right, if there's no other discussion, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second it.
A motion and a second, please cast your ballots. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 6, consent.
Move to approve all consent items.
Second.
Motion
Second it.
and a second, cast your ballots. Motion passes 7-0. I'll go to item number 7, recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. All trustees are present for the Enid Municipal Authority. Item 9.1, approval of claims in the amount of $540,506.34.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Cast your ballots. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 10, adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. All trustees are present of the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item 12.1, approval of claims in the amount of $200,000.
Move to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Cast your ballots. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 13, adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. All trustees are present of the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item 15.1, approval of claims in the amount of $1,290.69.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your ballots. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 16, adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Item number 17, public comment. I have no one signed up for public comment. With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We are adjourned.